Back during the late 80s, Nintendo was pretty much on a runaway train. Atari had crashed and burned years ago, and Sega had yet to launch the Genesis in North America, sparking off the console wars. While it's easy to say that Nintendo had found its niche market, it's more like they were the niche at the time. Even being pretty much the sole home video game console in the market at the time, Nintendo still had its fans to appease, and its goal to continue in business. So it isn't like once they made it, they could just slack off and make garbage games for their system. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of crap at the time, but mostly being produced by third-party developers. Meanwhile, Nintendo kept forging ahead with its main franchises, creating new and exciting adventures for us all to experience. This premise drops us into the year 1990, and the subject of this review, Super Mario Bros. 3. Hey guys, what's happening? Aaron here. Now, it kind of goes without saying that this is, really one of the greatest NES games ever made. Not to mention a legend in the annals of the Super Mario universe. Does it deserve that status? We'll see. Does it still retain its title after nearly 30 years? Let's find out. As previously mentioned, Super Mario Bros. 3 was released on the original NES in 1990, and coincided with, here in the States, the release of the classic gaming film The Wizard. But we'll come back to that a little later. Many people consider the third release in the series to be the greatest of all time, even to this day. The third game sees Nintendo completely redesign and improve almost every single aspect of the Super Mario series that we had known up until that point. You still run right to left, jumping and stomping on enemies, collecting power-ups like the Super Mushroom and Fire Flower. That's explaining this game in the most basic way, but let's dive deeper. Much like Super Mario Bros. 2, you're now able to go right and left during a stage. New to Super Mario Bros. 3 are the Super Leaf, which transforms Mario into Raccoon Mario, for the first time in the series, allowing flight. This opens up a whole new dimension to gameplay and how you conquer levels. No longer are you limited to just running and jumping, but you can now skip huge sections of levels if you're having troubles just by flying over them. You also have 3 new magical suits that Mario can wear, granting other special powers as well. The Frog Suit, which gives you super speed and maneuverability underwater, as well as vastly increasing your jump distance. The Hammer Brothers Suit, which allows you to fight fire with fire, or hammers with hammers, I guess, and gives you invulnerability when crouching. And lastly, the Tanuki Suit, which basically functions like the Super Leaf, but also gives you the ability to transform into a statue for a short while, also making you invulnerable. There's some sort of backstory behind the statue, but I seem to have forgotten it as time has passed. Whoa! Wait a minute. I've got to discuss the story first before I go any further. Taking place in the Mushroom Kingdom once again, King Bowser returns and this time has brought his 7 children with him. Each Koopaling conquering and taking control of each of the 7 worlds in Super Mario Bros. 3. The king of each world has had their magical scepter stolen and transformed into a different animal. Oh, and Princess Peach got kidnapped as usual. It's up to Mario and Luigi to venture across the 7 worlds and restore order. The curtain rises at the title screen, and off we go! You begin in World 1, Grassland. You'll notice easily that the straightforward level-to-level linear path through the game has been changed to now what is considered the traditional overworld map, allowing the character to move around the world more or less as they see fit. You still have sequentially numbered stages, but now, you don't necessarily have to go through all of them. More on that later. You'll also notice some other additions besides the normal levels. These include mushroom houses, which allows the player to randomly choose one of 3 chests containing a power-up. The mix and match houses, which net you extra lives. End cards, which appear if certain requirements are met, and basically play like memory. And lastly, you have the coin ships, or as we called it growing up, the ghost ship, even though it has nothing to do with ghosts. There are mini castles as well, and they usually have to be defeated so the locked doors on the world map open up and allow further progression. Because of the way each world map is made, it is possible to complete the world without beating every level, either through taking alternate routes or via the use of a cloud, which is an item stored in your inventory and lets you bypass the next level you come across. Oh yeah, the inventory! During the world map, if you press Y or X, the lower panel on the screen will rotate, and here's where you can store excess power-ups and other goodies to use when you want to. The inventory system is the only way to utilize certain items like P-Wings, which let you fly through entire levels, music boxes, which put all wandering Hammer Brothers on the world map to sleep, allowing you to slip past them, and warp whistles. Oh, how can I not talk about the warp whistles? What singular item caused so much heated arguments during my childhood game time? Basically, if you didn't get it, you hoped the other person wouldn't use it too soon and waste it, or you lost your freaking voice telling them to fucking use the warp whistle already. Playing this game as a kid, we were only aware of 2 warp whistles, both located in World 1. However, it wasn't until I happened to pick up the player's guide for the game one day at Kmart that I learned that there was actually a 3rd warp whistle, hidden in World 2, that none of us knew about for years. A little side trivia? The tune that is played when the warp whistle is used is the first few notes of The Legend of Zelda's main theme. As you journey on your way across the Mushroom Kingdom, you'll run into all kinds of enemies, both new and old, returning of the usual classics like Goombas, Spinies, and Cheep Cheeps. But the enemy roster has been greatly expanded in this game. Newcomers like Big Bertha, wrenches, fire snakes, and even non-killable piranha plants. The worlds cover almost every environment, from sandy deserts to snowy fields, sunny seashores to soaring clouds. You finally arrive at World 8, otherwise known as Hell. Here, you'll have to navigate a parade of tanks and other cannonball-shooting vehicles. You have the parade of ships, same thing, except on water. Never mind that we figured out 30 years ago that you can just swim under the entire level. But speaking of which, did they change it in the All-Stars version so you couldn't do that anymore? I tried and could not get the fuck up back on the last boat like you're supposed to. Anyways, you travel through a few more areas, getting past the grabby hands that pull you down randomly, and the damn airship fleet stage, which, still to this day, will challenge your jumping skills as well as your patience. Can always use a P-Wing, I guess, but then you used to get made fun of for being a shitty gamer. The next area is shrouded in darkness and contains normal levels for a change. Finally, you make it to Bowser's Castle and get ready for one of the longest levels in the game. It's all fun though, not too brutal. The final battle with Bowser begins, and it's pretty simple. Just get him to smash through the floor while avoiding his fireballs, and that's it. Walk through the glowing door and claim your prize. Da 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 da! The curtain falls and the game is over. Speaking graphically wise, the original release of Super Mario Bros. 3 looked pretty good for the time, and still holds up well to this day. I just used the All-Stars version because I prefer the updated graphics of the Super Nintendo, but everyone has their preferred version. Also, the All-Stars version gives you the ability to save on any current world, instead of having to beat the whole game in one sitting like the original. I also like how the backgrounds in the All-Stars version have been fleshed out considerably, instead of just solid colors. It really gives stages more feeling. The enemies and stage layouts have also been designed really well, and I think that's one of the main points of the greatness for this game, and I think most gamers would agree. The music and sounds are just as memorable. From the light and fun tunes of Grasslands, to the oppressive downbeats of World 8, it's all been sequenced beautifully. My personal favorite is probably World 2, just because I think the music perfectly fits the setting. Now, let's halt for a moment and go back to something I mentioned near the beginning of this review, The Wizard. This was a movie that was produced by Universal and was released into theaters to coincide with Super Mario Bros. 3's release. It's a total gamers movie, full of nostalgia and memories and early 90s cheese.
Jeez. I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
I'm not really going to go in depth with the movie, which I'd like to since it's one of my favorites, but this is a game review, not a movie review. Anyways, one of the biggest contentions in the movie is that near the end during the tournament, which I might add was the first time we'd seen Super Mario Bros. 3 as the movie came out before the game, the main character, Jimmy, somehow knows to fly up and out of sight in the World 1 mini castle, thereby revealing the location of one of the hidden warp whistles. How in the fuck he knew that is beyond me. But at least it gave us a huge tip. I've always wondered, had that not been shown, how long it would have remained secret before someone discovered it. Overall, Super Mario Bros. 3 is probably in my top 5 NES games of all time. And while I don't consider it the best in the Mario series, there's so many great memories from growing up playing it, and it's still a fantastic game to this day. As previously mentioned, the game was overhauled and updated as part of 1993's Super Mario All-Stars, a compilation cartridge featuring the first 4 games for the original NES. It was also released as part of the 25th anniversary collection on the Nintendo Wii, but sadly, Nintendo didn't update the collection again and instead only carried over the versions from 1993, which I always was kind of disappointed about since I always thought it would have been cool had Nintendo updated all 4 games using the graphics from New Super Mario Bros. Wii. While I would recommend the All-Stars version to newer players, as it's a much more complete presentation, if you have access to or are interested, check out the original and find out for yourself what all the fuss is about. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, go check it out.